Hey folks, Attorney Andrew Branca here. Earlier today, I was invited, very kindly invited, onto the YouTube show of Legal Vices. Legal Vices is an attorney who happens to live in Korea, has for decades, but he's an American attorney, does great work as a law tuber, and he was covering today the Alec Baldwin story and lots of events around that, lots of documents around that. And he very kindly invited me to be on the show. I was on for about an hour or so. And it's my appearance on the show that I'm sharing with all of you here today. Just over an hour of my appearance on the show. By the way, that show alone went, I think, for 4 hours today. Most of it I was not on, but I would encourage you to watch the whole show. In fact, I would encourage you to check out Legal Vice's entire YouTube channel. You can just go to youtube.com and type in Legal Vices in the search window, and it will come right up. Legal Vices does great work. Also a guest on today's show on Legal Vices was another law tuber, Sean Martin. He's an attorney out of Ohio. His YouTube channel is Potentially Criminal. If you go to youtube.com/potentially criminal, it'll pop right up. Sean also does great work as an attorney, and I would encourage you to check out his channel as well. So with that said, I'm going to transition now over to the recording of my appearance on that show. Again, it lasts for a little over an hour. Enjoy it, and I'll say a few parting words before we leave at the end. So here we go.
But Mr. Self-Defense Expert himself is here. Hello, sir.
How is everybody?
Hey, Andrew.
Pretty
Like your background.
good.
Thank you. Yeah, we moved into a new office, so they put this decal up on the wall behind me.
Oh, very nice.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and think you might have some comments on this.
I don't know, where are you guys at? You were reading a court filing there, it looks like.
It was an indemnity. It was an indemnity request from Baldwin's production companies. It's basically it's a really, really powerful deal. Which basically Rust Movie Productions is negligent, and I suffer for it. You indemnify me. So it looks like he's going to get away with literally not paying anything from the civil side. But we were doing that just to fill time. We can definitely go back and talk about the fun part of it, which is all right. Give us your Vegas odds on who is going to go down and what for, and the possibilities of convictions.
I mean, the only person I've looked at really closely is Alec Baldwin himself. The others I haven't been too concerned about. I don't mean to be insulting, but they're kind of nobodies in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
And I mostly focus on criminal liability rather than civil.
Mm-hmm.
And while there's, I guess, potentially some risk for criminal liability for them, it's much more tangential than for the man who was holding the gun that discharged and killed the woman. For Alec Baldwin, it's a pretty open and shut case of involuntary manslaughter on a number of different legal paths under New Mexico law to get there. It's a felony. You'll be surprised to hear it's only a 4th-degree felony in New Mexico. It's only good for 18 months in prison.
I was thinking whatever would be their equivalent of a negligent homicide.
Well, we have to be careful with these.
Rise to that level? I mean, involuntary manslaughter. For some reason, I hadn't even thought of that. I think
so we really need to distinguish between what's really meant by negligence versus recklessness, right? So if it's merely a negligent killing, like I don't know, you're driving a little too fast in the rain and you can't stop in time and you run somebody over, you should have known you were creating a risk that you could kill somebody, but you didn't actually know. That's negligence, and that would be a wrongful death suit. That would be civil liability, but there's no criminal liability for a negligent unlawful killing. When states do create criminal liability, what they're really doing is using the term negligent inappropriately. If you look at the actual law, what they're describing is recklessness. And the difference between negligence and recklessness is in negligence, you should have known you were creating a risk, but you didn't actually know. But a reasonable person in the circumstances would have known. Recklessness is where you knew you were creating the risk and you ignored the risk and someone died as a result. That would be like drunk driving. You know you're drunk, you know you're getting behind the wheel of a car, you know that risk that's created there, and you run somebody over. You weren't intending to run anybody over, or it would be an intentional unlawful killing. It would be a murder. You just wanted to get home, but you created a unjustified risk of death to others. You ignored the risk. You killed somebody. That's reckless killing. And that's essentially involuntary manslaughter. That's what involuntary manslaughter is. And when you're handling an inherently dangerous instrument, like explosives or dangerous chemicals, poisons, dangerous drugs, or firearms, there really is no negligence. It's automatically reckless because of the inherently dangerous characteristic of what you're handling. Because everybody is presumed to know that if you misuse this item, people die. Everybody knows the muzzle of a real gun is a dangerous thing. You don't point it at people, certainly without first ensuring that it's unloaded. So you pretty much automatically get to reckless if you're handling an inherently dangerous instrument. And under New Mexico law, there's actually a specific provision for reckless handling of deadly weapons, which is what this is. And one path, a secondary path to involuntary manslaughter under New Mexico law, is a death that results from an unlawful act not amounting to a felony. If it amounted to a felony, you'd be looking at felony murder. But reckless handling of a deadly weapon under New Mexico law is an unlawful act. It's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
That misdemeanor is an unlawful act. Someone dies in the commission of an unlawful act not amounting to a felony, and that's, again, involuntary manslaughter under New Mexico law. So if they want Alec Baldwin convicted of involuntary manslaughter, they've got him. The only real defense here, and all this nonsense about, well, it was someone else's responsibility and someone should have checked. I mean, that could all be true. And there may be other people here who also bear some degree of even criminal liability, but that does nothing to relieve Alec Baldwin of his criminal liability. The last person on the face of the earth who had control over whether Helena Hutchins died was Alec Baldwin. He does not get relieved of that responsibility because someone earlier in the chain could also have done something different.
What do you think the chances of him actually getting charged are? I have it about 60%, my gut feeling.
I mean, it's a political decision. It's, nothing new is developed in terms of evidence or law. So what we know now, we knew many months ago. If they wanted to simply go ahead with the prosecution, if this had been you or me, for example, we would have been prosecuted a long time ago. Right. So it's clearly just political forces driving here. I mean, the DA in the area who's in charge of this case, although she's working damn hard to pass this hot potato off to a special prosecutor, but the DA is of the same political tribe as Alec Baldwin. They're both progressive lefties, and people tend to have loyalty to their tribe. That area of New Mexico, the Santa Fe, Taos, Albuquerque area, there are wealthy people there, but generally speaking, it's not a wealthy area of the country. They're desperate for Hollywood movie to come in. Please film more Westerns here. And criminally prosecuting the actors in the last Western, it isn't conducive to getting that kind of business in. So there's a number of factors that would argue against bringing a prosecution here. None of them have anything to do with the legal merit or the law of the evidence. They all have to do with, political decision making. But, people have to remember the criminal justice system, it's not a magic box where you feed law and evidence into one side and you crank a handle and you get justice with a capital J at the other side. In that box is a lot of people, human beings making decisions, and human beings make imperfect, biased, politically motivated decisions all the time, including, unfortunately, people like prosecutors.
Well, in addition to that decision, there's also the prosecutors asking for money, and that also becomes a problem. Like, they might not be able to afford to prosecute him.
Yeah, they've asked for like $630-something thousand for.
Well, they can afford it.
Well, they
I mean, they can't afford to do it the way they want to do it.
Yes,
they want to hire all kinds of security. They want to hire a special prosecutor. They want to hire next level experts and all kinds of stuff. But again, if it were you or me, they wouldn't need an extra $600,000 to prosecute us. They just prosecute us.
Yeah. Sure, they would. But I think though, there's the idea she wants to get the. Yeah, I would want the best experts, because if I'm going to do this, I want to make sure I can stick it. So I
don't think there's anything for experts to add. I mean, we've had experts look at the gun. The gun functions the way the gun was supposed to function. There's nothing notable. There's no expert argument to be made there. Frankly, the only real defense here that Alec Baldwin would have had would have come into play if he'd simply kept his damn mouth shut.
Yes,
and had competent legal counsel. Because if he for example, if he had genuinely believed that this gun in his hand was actually an inanimate, non-functioning prop that could not discharge a bullet, if he had reason to believe that, Well, that would clear him of any
Yes, it
criminal
would.
liability because he would not have known he was creating a risk of death to others. If he had and that's, by the way, that would have been the reaction, right? If he had believed that this was not a gun that could actually fire, the minute that thing went off in his hand, he would have been like, holy crap, what just happened? But
Yeah, I thought this was the
he's
toy.
never denied
Yeah.
he knew it was a real gun. If he just kept his damn mouth shut, his lawyer now could be arguing, well, we're prepared to represent that our client didn't even know that was a real gun. But of
I
course,
would be almost willing to even let him go, as foolish as it is. Let him go to the point where I'm just an actor. I don't know a fucking thing about guns. I don't know. The people that are in charge of safety gave me this and told me that it was a cold gun and it was perfectly safe to use, and I believed them.
that doesn't help him. As long as you know it's a real gun that's capable of firing bullets, when you point the muzzle at another person, you're creating an unjustified risk of death unless you've ensured the gun's actually not loaded, which obviously he didn't do. So
it doesn't hurt him as much as 20 minutes later going, well, now I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm classically trained. And here's how you tell all of these different rounds apart. And, I know what this sounds like. I know what the blanks look like. I know what the dummies look like. And yeah, that doesn't, that hurts you a lot more than if you just say, I'm a complete idiot.
but you're not allowed to be a complete idiot with a gun.
Yeah.
No,
Because it's an inherently dangerous instrument. We know guns kill. We know what the muzzle.
Yes.
By the way, particularly Alec Baldwin knows guns kill.
Yeah.
He's on the board of a gun control organization because guns
Well,
kill.
I did not know that.
Yes.
yes, he's very anti-gun.
I know he's anti-gun. I didn't know he was on any. any
very,
boards
very,
of things. Oh.
Now,
So he wouldn't be on that board if he thought guns were harmless to people, right? And we all know what end of the gun the bullet comes out of. In fact, there's an argument to be made. It's a speculative argument. I want to make that clear, that there is a path. So say he's prosecuted for this involuntary manslaughter, 4th-degree felony, convicted, sentenced to the maximum. It's 18 months. I mean, anybody can do 18 months. May not even go to prison for 18 months. They may keep him in a local county jail for 18 months. Who knows? 18 months is nothing. But there is a theoretical path to felony murder here. We would need more evidence than we have on hand. But, it's remarkable to me that we have no video of this event, of the shooting. Because if you've ever been, I've never been involved with a movie, but I've been involved with a lot of TV production. I've been a quote unquote actor on TV. So I've had to sit around and wait my turn to do my thing and watch what's going on. And there's a lot of waiting and a lot of boredom, but there's also a lot of filming. There's a lot of filming. It's not just the film camera. The film camera has piggybacked on it, digital cameras that are capturing the dailies. There's people walking around with other cameras, getting other angle shots. There's people walking around just recording footage for the making of the movie stuff that happens on the C-reel after the movie's revealed. You get the bonus disc in the DVD package. There's always filming going on. And especially when they were prepping for a shot, I can't believe there's not at least digital video of this event. And
there's some video of a few minutes before. Have you seen that video where he's practicing drawing?
Yeah, he bumbles. He bumbles the gun every time.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah, the little practice draws.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, where his finger is 2 knuckles deep around the trigger.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So you might try to make but again, to my mind, it doesn't. All this talk about did he pull the trigger? Did he not pull the trigger? Yeah. I mean, obviously, if he pulled the trigger, it's even worse for him. But you don't even need to get that far. The mere pointing of the gun at a human being is enough to constitute the recklessness required for involuntary manslaughter. But here's where it could get worse. We all know he's infamous for having a bad temper, for being easily irritated, for turning violent. I mean, he's had fisticuffs with paparazzis. He called his own daughter a little fat pig. I mean, this is a guy who can get pretty in your face pretty quickly. And there's a lot of aspects of doing this filming, doing these shots that can get very repetitive and very boring. They want you to do the take again and again and again because the light's not quite right or someone made a noise in the background or there's 1,000 reasons. And once you get to the 10th or 15th or 20th time you're doing the same damn thing, it gets irritating. And for someone like Baldwin, you can't help but wonder, is because we know there was that kind of repetition happening, right? He
Yeah.
said it in
Yeah.
his interview. I'm asking them, I'm playing with the hammer and I'm asking them, can you
Yeah.
see it now? Does this look right? Does this look right? Does it?
Do you want more? Do you
was
want
he
more?
getting irritated? Was he thinking to himself, here I am, a huge movie star working on a stupid low budget movie, and they're not giving me the respect I deserve, and I'm going to give that Helena Hutchins just a little bit of a scare. I'm going to point that gun at her and click that hammer, shake her up a little bit, because if he's doing that, and of course this is speculative, but I would be surprised if this wasn't caught on video, or if the evidence might not exist. But if we saw that on video, that he was deliberately trying to scare her, well, that's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, folks.
Yeah.
And that is a felony. And that would be grounds for felony murder.
Yeah, if you went straight up, hey, you know what? If this were real, and then,
Yeah.
Although I was wondering, because I know in some states, discharging a firearm in certain structures can be a felony. So I wonder if they could use that to get to.
Well, the act would have to be intentional is the problem. So I don't believe he ever intended for the gun to fire. But you don't need to intend for the gun to fire. Aggravated assault is not actually firing a gun or hurting someone.
I'm trying to menace you with it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Now this is something from back when they released, I don't know if they released everything, but they released a bunch of their evidence. All the interviews, the FBI report got released where they destroyed the gun to show it actually worked properly.
Did they release the actual FBI report? I saw.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because I saw people commenting on it like they'd seen it, but I've not seen it.
Oh,
so if you have a copy, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I will send that to you.
They destructive tested that firearm to the point where they broke it, and they beat on it with a hammer to get it to try to fire on its own.
Yeah, right. Well, they always do that. They don't usually do that to the point of breaking the weapon. That's ridiculous. But they hit it usually with a rubber-headed mallet just to see if a shock to the gun might, drop the sear, drop the hammer, make the gun discharge, that kind of thing. That's routine.
Yeah, but it was interesting though. In this one, they actually did failure test it.
Yeah.
So I was, at the time when they released everything, I was very much of the mind that they aren't going to prosecute him, because if you really were going to prosecute somebody, you wouldn't just dump all this out there. To put every single person's interview, to put Alec's interview out there, all the testing. If you're getting ready to prosecute a case, you don't lay all your cards out like that. And I wonder, and part of me is thinking with this letter, she could say, "Oh, I didn't get the money. Aw, shucks."
I think it can go either way. I mean, to tell you the truth, if she doesn't want to prosecute, but for whatever reason she feels compelled to do that, then she's going to want to be able to point to factors outside of her control. Listen, if I had the decision by myself, I wouldn't have done this. I love Alec Baldwin, but with this body of evidence, there was nothing I could do. So she'd want the evidence out there to support that view.
See, that's how I thought.
I could see her doing that at the end, but I just, while you're still, it's not even a year old, I just think that's still, I don't know, a little premature.
But again, if it were you or me, listen, I've been involved in plenty of cases that involve these kinds of accidental shootings.
Oh, yeah.
Accidental. I shouldn't use the word accidental. It's a term of art that wouldn't apply here.
Yeah.
These kind of reckless shootings, and they're prosecuted routinely.
Oh yeah, I would expect all of us to be prosecuted for this
quickly. But I think that because it involves Alec Baldwin, they're making sure they dot as many I's as they can possibly find and cross as many T's, and going slowly and methodically, because if they charge him, he's going to have virtually endless resources himself to crush the prosecution. So I think they're just being ultra careful.
I'm trying to imagine. So say he brings $10 million to his legal defense. I mean, what's that get him? What's the argument he's going to make? There's no self-defense argument here. Obviously, no. He wasn't, defending himself against a threat by any means. So, what would be the legal defense? That it's not reckless conduct to point a gun at someone without first ensuring it's not loaded. That's a hard sell.
He's talked too much to. A lot of things.
As much as he's talked, you have to invest in some high-quality obfuscation.
Right. I mean, if he hadn't been doing all this stupid talking, because we all know, right? You have a right to silence. You can't be compelled to incriminate yourself. But if you are talking, the things you don't say can incriminate you. And the fact that he did all this talking and never claimed, "I didn't know it was a gun," well, he can't make that claim now. It simply wouldn't be credible. But if he just kept his mouth shut, his lawyer could now be saying, Alec, by the way, is there any possibility, wink, 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 you had no idea that was a real gun? He'd be like, oh yeah, no, I didn't know. But he can't make that claim.
It was a real gun? What? Yeah.
Yeah. Even in the arbitration agreement we were just looking at, they said Alec knows what he's doing. He's been trained for decades with firearms.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do that stuff.
And I've spoken to other people I know who are Hollywood actors. I'm not going to drop any names, but they get routinely trained in handling firearms or in lots of movies where guns are involved. And they tell me, listen, we would never point a real gun at another human being. You point a little bit off to the side. The camera can't tell. And if the gun, heaven forbid, somehow miraculously discharges, the bullet misses them and you haven't actually killed somebody. Or they would check themselves. They would ensure that they were competent to determine whether or not the gun they were holding was actually going to put a hole in somebody.
But I mean, like, what kind of idiot would do that anyway? That's the fact that we're even talking about this is just utterly bewildering to me.
The same kind of guy who lives a millionaire's lifestyle and has staff that do everything for him. You think he makes his own plane reservations? You think he makes his own restaurant reservations? I mean, people do things for him. He needn't worry about that. That's what peons are for. Yeah. What makes this reckless is that he killed someone as a result.
Oh, it's just... you need to loosen your tie and go no tie Branca here. We need to go full on no tie Branca today because this is so frustrating to me. You would have someone who is such an arrogant asshole that is so above everyone that he's telling the person whose job it is to train and make sure they're safe. Oh, I don't need your cross draw training. I'm an actor. I've been trained. And refusing the training. Or have you seen the other people they're investigating saying, yeah, okay, I've been acting longer than she's been alive, but that's her job, so I let her do it and I listen to her. But just to be that attitude is just what infuriates me. And if he doesn't get charged, I'm going to be pissed. And I don't know why I'm going to be pissed other than because I'm a decent human being sometimes, I think.
Yeah, and trust me, the last people that Alec Baldwin would want on his jury is anybody who's familiar with firearms. I mean, I've been around guns my whole life. I've been a competitive shooter since I was a little kid shooting small bore rifle. And I'll be honest with you, I've shot thousands of matches. I've been a safety officer overseeing other shooters for safety purposes at thousands of matches over the decades. And so I've been around a lot of people shooting guns, but guns make me nervous. They're dangerous. If I'm around other people who are shooting guns and I don't know who they are, I'm scared because it's so easy to do something stupid. It's different when you're at a match, because at a match, there's only one person with a loaded gun who's handling a gun at a time, and you're carefully watching that person. Everything is very rigidly controlled. But anytime it's kind of a loosey-goosey environment, I don't want to be there myself. So the more you know about guns, the more sensitive you are to how dangerous they are and how carefully they have to be handled.
And that's exactly why when I go back to the States, I only go to the indoor organized ranges and not the ones out on the west side of town, out in the middle of the cow pastures where it's a line of old picnic tables and a big berm set up in the background where anybody can just go. That freaks me the hell out.
Oh, even indoor ranges. If I'm around people I don't know, that still weirds me out to go to a range.
The main one I go to is in Salt Lake. It's where the Salt Lake Gang Enforcement Unit does their training, and it's a very, very nice thing that has hawks watching over you constantly. So Ian was saying that in some of the competitive events he's been involved in, they specifically prohibit cross drawing in the competitions because you're drawing an arc across several people while you draw it.
Well, in competition shooting, there's the 180 rule. If you break the 180 rule, you're done. And when even for safety violations like that, you're done. Sorry, you're going home for the day. That's it. Have a good one. Maybe you can come back later. And if you have you negligently discharge, sorry, you're not coming back ever again. And it's not hard to get sent home from a match.
Yeah, a match, even if it's a national level match, you bought airplane tickets to get there and booked a hotel and paid a couple $100.
15 minutes into it,
you commit a safety violation, and I'll send you home in a second, and so will any other safety officer.
That's because the
safety record at these competitions is so extraordinarily good. I think maybe once in 20 years someone's injured at one of these events with a firearm. It almost never happens because we are so rigorous about the safety practices.
Well, Ed, I'm getting ready to send you the report for the email. What email should I use and tie that into? I'm sure if someone found themselves in a self-defense situation, there might be a good source for them to look to. Where would they look for that?
I'll message you my email.
Okay.
I hate to say it on the internet because then the bots pick it up, and then I got to change my email address again. But
anyway, plug yourself here. Yeah,
I do actually have something. I do have something to share. Let me see if I can. Can I share my screen through you? Is that a thing that we can do?
Yes,
that
All
is.
right, let me see if I
share
can.
at the bottom. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that. I got a little image here.
And while he's doing that,
all right,
please go to Law of Self-Defense. And if you know who I am, you don't know who he is, you have your priorities wrong. You definitely need to know Law of Self-Defense. Go there for some amazing videos and some amazing educational thing, such as this.
All right. So what this is, folks, is once or twice a year, I teach a full day course on self-defense law. We have one coming up this Saturday. 3 days from now? This Saturday, it's the second one, the last one for 2022. It'll be at least 6 months before we do another one. It's all everything you need to know to make yourself hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, your property, all taught in plain English. Learn it all in one day. And we're doing something we've never done before. And that is we're going to broadcast the first hour for free for everybody. Cool. So it'll be on our YouTube channel. And then after the hour, we're going to cut over just to the students who paid to be in the course. You'll have an opportunity to become one of those paid students if you want to. Just register for the course in real time. You don't have to, though. But if you go to lawselfdefense.com/YouTube, you'll see the scheduled Saturday morning. It starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can just click the reminder thing on YouTube, so you don't forget to come. But the first hour of this 6 hour plus course we're just making it publicly available. And from there, you can make a decision about whether or not you'd like to stay for the rest of the class. And that's this Saturday, October 1st, 2022 at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So something to think about, folks. Just go to Law Self-Defense YouTube channel. If you Google it, it'll pop up at lawselfdefense.com/YouTube or youtube.com/law self-defense. Any of those will bring up our channel.
And you also have a book, which I would hold up if it wasn't literally on the nightstand next to my bed right now.
That's it. The book. You can get the book for free. This is a simple one, folks. Simple URL to remember, lawselfdefense.com/free book. We just ask that you cover the what we have to pay the Postal Service to get the book to you. But the $25 cost of the book will eat. Or you can order the book from Amazon, and they'll charge you $25 for the book plus shipping and handling. So up to you. But I would suggest getting the book for free.
And the book is fascinating. I was like, because it has the basic laws of self-defense for all 50 states.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way self-defense, defense of persons law, so self-defense and defense of others works in the U.S. it's about 80% the same across the 50 states. This is very old law, folks. It goes back to the ancient Greeks and Romans, and even before then. It goes back to animals, natural law. I mean, animals defend themselves from attack. So because it's such old law, and of course, American law comes from Old English common law before we were even a country, it's very common across the 50 states. The one major difference among the states is whether or not you have a legal duty to retreat before you can use deadly force in self-defense. And people think that's an exceptional circumstance, but in fact, 39 states are stand your ground states, including some states that might surprise you, like California is a very aggressive stand your ground state, actually. There's only 11 states that impose that legal duty to retreat. But in terms of the rest of the law, it's pretty much the same across the 50 states. Now, of course, they all have their own statutes and jury instructions and court decisions, but the underlying principles are very common. So what our book does is it covers those principles. So no matter what state you're in, they would apply. And where there is variance, like stand your ground or duty to retreat, we point out which states are the exceptions there.
It's a fascinating book, and it's free, so why not get it?
Crazy. If you're not willing to spend, I forget what we charge, $8 and change maybe for shipping and handling. If you're not willing to spend $8
something to get it here to Korea. So
yeah. If you're not willing to spend $8 to be hard to convict, if you're ever attacked by a criminal predator, I don't know what else to do for you.
And I missed a super chat a while ago. This is a weird segue, and it's not getting us anywhere. Eve Barlow's Rotten Crotch says, cool. Pro-choicers right now. I didn't know I was being plowed by a real dong. How was I supposed to know it was going to go off?
Right.
Yeah, got nothing to add to that, Eve Barlow's Rotten Crotch. But I don't even know where to segue from there. But thanks. But I mean, something I mean, I asked Ian, I don't know, I can't remember if I asked you, Sean, or not, but the first thoughts when Alec Baldwin has just put a bullet through literally through another human being and into another, and he goes into the sheriff's office, lawyerless, and he's talking on the phone to his wife about where the kids are going to go for the weekend and whether to visit. How stunned were you by that?
I mean, if you're asking me, people do it all the time. So it's an incredibly stupid thing to do, but it's unbelievably common, especially arrogant people who feel they can talk their way because they're privileged. I mean, really privileged, not in the woke sense, but they actually have genuine privilege because they're rich and famous, and that's got nothing to do with politics per se. Rich and famous people have always had privilege. That's the benefit of being rich and famous. Privileged people, they're always allowed to get away with stuff and do things that normal people wouldn't be allowed to do and talk their way out of situations or into favorable situations. And I'm sure he thought that's what he was doing. But even people who aren't arrogant, they sit with the cops, and it's extraordinarily common for them to, especially when they think of themselves as good people, right? They're not habitual career criminals. So they haven't had bad interaction with law enforcement before. They think cops are there to help you. And of course, generally they are until you're the suspect in a killing. And then answering those police questions is extremely hazardous to your liberty because you have no idea what you're doing. You're simply incompetent. You're a babe in a bowl of razor blades waiting to get sliced up. But people don't recognize that danger. They just see the friendly police officer. They subject themselves to interrogation. I say without a lawyer present, but the truth is, even if you had a lawyer present, you still ought not be talking like that. Your lawyer ought not let you be talking like that. If there's things that need to be communicated to law enforcement, you ought to communicate those things to your lawyer, and then your lawyer can make, we're prepared to represent statements to law enforcement, the kind of statements that can't be used against you in court because anything you say can be used to incriminate you. But if your lawyer's merely representing what we might be prepared to say in the future,
to the best of my knowledge and belief,
right?
Oh, and I've done that all the time. I could say, so if we're prepared to talk about X, Y, and Z, that can't be used against you. I can say, we can talk about all kinds of things.
Yep.
That's
that's why I think the sheriff that did these investigations was very, very skilled in being friendly. I mean, the beginning of the armorer's first round of interrogation, she was like, I think I need a lawyer. I think I should have my lawyer here. And she was just like, well, that's a decision for you to make, but we're just talking here. You can stop at any time. And if you feel like you need your lawyer, just tell me and you can get him. But well, here's this sheet that just talked about your rights.
It was a woman doing that interview. Two women, I think. Yeah, they would have been deputies. Actually, the sheriff, I think, is a guy. So there's only one sheriff, and then
sheriff's deputy. Be specific.
And by the way, when you do that, folks, when you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should have a lawyer. That is not an assertion of your right to counsel. I mean, your assertion of your rights has to be unambiguous. So you have to say, I am asserting my right to counsel. I am asserting my right to silence. If you're wishy-washy about it, well, they can be wishy-washy about their response. Like, well, you can do that if you want, but maybe you want to talk to us first, and it won't be necessary to spend that kind of money and blah 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 blah, and off to prison you go.
And then she was so smooth when she said, "Now here's the rights. It's just a formality. Just sign that." Okay.
In fact, I just did a show a couple weeks ago. I had an old friend of mine on. He's a retired FBI special agent and very, very highly trained in interrogation. In fact, he had been detached to Guantanamo to do some interrogation of the terrorists there back in the day. And now he's retired, so he can talk about a bunch of this stuff. And I had him on to explain how interrogators work, how they're trained. Folks, you are not on an even playing field with that person. They are a professional, trained, paid for. This is their career, interrogator.
That's what they do.
They are artists at what they do.
And if they have a bad day, okay, they go home, they might get chewed out. If you have a bad day with your interrogator, you're screwed.
And this day is a normal day for them. This is just another day in the office for them. This is nothing exceptional. For you, it's the most stressful day of your life.
Yeah.
I tell that to people here, especially foreigners in a foreign country. You assume the locals are just fucking idiots. I'm an American. I'm smarter than any Korean policeman. So they get nailed for possession of some sort of illegal drugs. And I'm this guy that's questioning you has been doing this every day of his life for the past 35 years. You're not going to win.
Mhm.
And that's why we with the deputy sheriff, yeah, right, the sheriff's deputy that was questioning Hannah, in 15 minutes she had Hannah completely forgetting the fact that lawyers existed on planet Earth, and she just talked. The second time she brings her lawyer in, you got to work with, and which I guess this kind of leads the one question. How do you differentiate between being questioned as a witness versus as a potential suspect?
You can't, so you
No.
should assume you're a suspect.
Yeah.
Well, anything
Because
you say as a
they'll
witness
treat you
can
like
give
a
them
witness.
Yeah.
How do you know you're being questioned as a suspect? You got Mirandized. That's how you know.
Yeah, and
but
you can
they'll
be the
just
witness.
treat that as the most, hey, we just got this technical thing we have to do. It's nothing to worry about. It's no big deal. But you have the right to counsel. You have the right to remain silent. If you waive those rights, anything you say, blah, blah, blah. Do you understand these rights? Would you sign this waiver for us? Thank you very much. Now, you need anything, cup of water, coffee, anything I can get for you, and maybe you can tell us what happened. So they'll make it sound like they're questioning you like a mere witness. But if you're Mirandized, it's because they're looking at you like a suspect.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of times what the Korean police will do. Even someone they know did it, they will interview them as a witness to begin with. And you give them your big statement, and they go, okay, we want to bring you back in here tomorrow to follow up on some of these things you said. And then they read you your rights and go, yeah, I remember yesterday when you were talking about this. Let's talk about that some more. And suddenly you're facing charges.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. If the police are talking to you, that's how you know something's up. Now, there might be, yes, there's some obvious times where that's probably not the case. But generally speaking, if the cops are talking to you, it's not looking good for you. Because even, let's say you might be a witness. You're going to screw up. You're going to say something. You might say something they weren't prepared for. That presentation where the defense attorney gives it, you know what I'm talking about, Bronca? He gives it in the law school. It's from like 10, 15 years
Professor
ago.
James Duane.
Yeah, that is the greatest example of you can talk yourself into so many problems.
Yeah, the never talk to police guy.
If especially if you're sitting in the police station, that yes, you need to. There's no way for you to discern, and you won't know.
There's the shut the fuck up guys. If a police talks, you just shut the fuck up. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, you don't know, and they
literally
can say,
every one of
you.
these people, every one of these people went in without a lawyer.
Yeah,
every one of them.
Yeah. By the way, I don't agree with everything Professor Duane had to say in that video of his. I did a lengthy 2-part debunking of parts of that. If anyone's interested in that, they can go to lawofselfdefense.com/Duane, Duane. And I actually reached out to Professor Duane to talk with him about, some of the differences I had with what he was communicating there, but he won't talk to me. So
yeah,
because you scare him, I'm sure.
I don't know. And my differences really are specific to the self-defense context, because I think there's, if you're an actual criminal, for God's sakes, don't talk to the police. I mean, nothing good is going to come of you. If you're an otherwise law-abiding person who's been in a good shoot, I think there is value that could be left on the table if you literally just don't say anything. I think it's high risk to say anything. But the risk may be worth it if you've thought carefully about this. How you respond to stress. You know that you might be able to say a couple of important things and nothing else after that. Because if you don't know that, then you got to shut up. If your choices are shut up or blather, you can't blather. I mean, that's just talking your way into prison. But I think there is a professional approach to interacting with the police in the aftermath of a self-defense event, which, by the way, we talk about in our class on Saturday, lawselfdefense.com/advanced. I think there's a professional approach for people who have thought about this carefully, who don't collapse under stress and know that about themselves. There are risks to it. So it's not something I tell people to do, but I encourage them to consider it as an option and decide for themselves whether they're a good fit for that admittedly higher risk approach.
Yeah. And if you think you're doing it, you have to really do a lot of thinking about it.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of introspection.
I wouldn't. When you get lawyers saying don't, I wouldn't listen to that.
Well, generally speaking, yes, everybody should shut up. But if you want to take that risk, you better have mentally prepared yourself and thought this through, not just thinking about it right then and there. It's just like how you handle the stress and training of that force encounter, you've had to think about it. Like, what am I actually going to be able to do this? Can I do this? And you have to be mentally prepared for it. Well, you have to be mentally prepared for the rest of it. And that's where, the law
It
of
would be
self-defense would
prudent.
help a lot. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can drive a car or fly a plane without ever taking a lesson. They're not that hard to take off in, actually, but they're damn hard to
landing
land.
is the bitch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, where do you see this going, Andrew? I mean, I know it's all speculation.
It's all in the political arena now.
Yeah.
So, who knows what forces are driving this prosecutor? We all see prosecutors today, especially the Soros-funded ones, which I don't believe this particular prosecutor is, but the Soros-funded ones make these incredibly irrational, prosecutorial decisions that are well outside the range of the norm, right? 2 standard deviations away from what you would expect from an old school, traditional, non-politically energized prosecutor to either bring charges against people or not bring charges against people. So it's a political arena. I mean, might she be hoping to bump her budget up by $600,000 and not charge Alec Baldwin to go after three or four other people who no one's ever heard of, really? Maybe, I don't know. A reasonable prosecutor would not be asking for that kind of money unless someone as high profile as Baldwin was going to be in their crosshairs. But if he was genuinely in their crosshairs, why wait this long?
Yeah. Well, why wait this long? Why disclose everything?
Well, I think the main thing they were waiting for was him to turn over his phone records that they've been asking for a year. And he finally did that. And that's when they said they're ready to go ahead with the charges.
But did they get a grand? I mean, if you really need to get a grand jury subpoena and okay, if he's not complying, you go after him properly.
I just think they're being extra careful. But I mean, as we talked about before, my scenario is they charge Baldwin with the lowest possible charge to pass political muster. And they get
they're being
armor.
so polite. Again, if it was us, they wouldn't bother with any of this. As Sean's quite right. They would just get a subpoena.
Oh, sure.
They'd go directly to the phone companies. They'd send 30 FBI agents to your home to arrest you at gunpoint. I mean, you know what they do when they want to go hard at you. They go hard at you.
Yeah. Oh, we have a warrant. I'll work with you on this. Okay, they might give you like a day to show up. Okay, fine. Here, we'll clone your phone. Not 6 months later. By the way, can we still have your phone? Yeah, that
because you know what happens then, right? Phones get destroyed with hammers, and all kinds of interesting things happen.
That is the one thing I have said, though. I think that Alec Baldwin probably did nuke stuff on his phone, so I bet easily a tampering charge out of this. But I don't know if he ends up facing the killing.
Well, and that's why I think that they'll probably charge the armorer. She'll plea out and they will flip her and she will be the star witness for the prosecution because she can tell you exactly what everybody else on set did wrong. And then whoever else they charge will just be cannon fodder.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she's not going to be a great witness, but of course prosecutors do this all the time, right? They take other gangbangers, other mob, members and have them testify, and they get convictions that way when they want to. I don't know. We'll have to see. Of course, I mean, that would be interesting if they, imagine if this was a prosecutor who didn't like Alec Baldwin, right? The first thing he would do is immunize everybody else and just get them all to testify against Alec Baldwin.
I mean, you tell a scared 24-year-old girl, you're in trouble.
They'll do anything.
Your life is over. You're never going to work in the film industry again. You've got a poll and or OnlyFans in your future. After you get out of spending a lengthy prison term, you help us out here. We'll give you a probation or a suspended sentence or something if you flip and rat everybody else out. I think
charge her with felony murder.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a realistic charge. They charge people all the time with BS charges. We don't have any real protection in this country against this kind of overcharging. We don't have real, in theory, we have like a probable cause threshold or a grand jury threshold. That's all nonsense. That doesn't exist. If the prosecutor wants you to go to trial on a criminal charge, you're going to trial on the charge they want.
Yeah.
And if they threaten her with felony murder, which carries potential life sentence, life in prison without possibility of early release, and you're 24 years old, or anybody,
New Mexico has a
you're
death
folding.
penalty,
Why wouldn't you fold if they're offering you any kind of reasonable deal to testify against someone else and hand the jeopardy over to them?
Yeah, and if Bronco, if you're sitting there as her attorney, you could say, I think this case is really shitty and it's going to be horrible, but you also have to tell her they're offering you a felony where you might only serve a couple of years. Like, I can't tell you that's not something you need to consider, because do you really want to risk going to prison forever?
Yeah, because
that is a hell of
the
a
risk
gamble.
of conviction is never zero,
Yeah.
folks. If you're in front of a jury, juries are completely unpredictable. They're dangerous, unpredictable creatures. And I tell every case I work on, I tell the clients, if we put you in front of a jury, I don't care if you're the most innocent client I've ever worked for, there's a 10% chance you get convicted and sentenced as if you were the most horrible person ever convicted of that crime.
Well, in law school, my torts professor always referred to the jury as the 12 ignorant slobs.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know what you're going to get.
For a third of the recovery, what are you going to tell the 12 ignorant slobs listening to your story? That's kind of how we would phrase those things.
It's 12 people from your community, and you might get the 12 smartest people. You might get 12 complete morons.
Yeah, not from her community.
Yeah.
from the local community, right? She's not from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's wherever you do this at.
Right. So, she's not a member of their community, right? She's an outsider who came in and is accused of doing horrible things within their jurisdiction.
Scott Cardinal, the internet historian, asks a question. But first, Hypershot, thank you so much for the hot dog super sticker. And Scott Cardinal asks, did Baldwin approach the victims at all, or did he just walk right past Helena while she was dying so he could go outside and call his wife? Some of the other people who were interrogated were saying that David Hall, the assistant director, and the safety guy was screaming at everybody to get out, get out, get out, so the first responders could get in. And I think he just left. And that's when you have him walking around with the cell phone going, what am I doing? And another super sticker, a good job Fox super sticker, it looks like. Thank you so much, Elron Butters. But yeah, I don't think he...
in fairness, he may not have known. He may not have known he mortally wounded someone with that shot.
He found out
right?
she died during his interview. That's when they got right towards the end when they got the
short
statement. Yeah,
but at the scene, there's an accident. Everybody needs to clear the room.
Yep,
that's pretty reasonable.
I wouldn't hold that against him. I mean, you don't need to. He's got
other stuff.
Right,
he's got bigger things to worry about. Yeah.
Somebody had mentioned in the chat I saw, like, what could you get from his phone that could help? Well, it's not necessarily things from before, like after the shooting, but from before the shooting. He's saying,
he could have texted his wife saying, "Man, I wish I had checked to make sure that gun wasn't loaded."
That too, yeah,
right,
yeah.
Or he could just, in the days leading up to it, like, I can't believe this director. She's so goddamn annoying. I'm going to scare her tomorrow, or any number of things you could say.
She needs to be straightened out.
Yeah. Or he said, you know what? On second thought, I'm glad it was a live round now. I mean, I
can see him saying that, though, unfortunately.
Or he could be saying, hey, because they had a couple accidental discharges already on set.
Yeah.
So if he's texting and he's aware of those, you wouldn't believe the safety problems here. We actually had a couple guns go off. And then he didn't check to make sure the gun was unloaded before he pointed it at somebody.
Yes. Yeah, there's a million different things you can say.
And I know we've talked about it earlier. I would really recommend watching the interview of the co-star, Jensen Ackles. His interrogation, he was interviewed as a witness, was stellar. He was just saying, she's younger than me. I just listened to her. He was talking about how he said, I don't care who hands me that gun or what they tell me about it. I am checking my damn self to see what's in that, to make sure. And even after I check it, the very first thing I do is I dry fire 6 shots towards the ground just to be extra sure. And
Right. So in my competitive shooting career, shooting handguns, when you're done shooting whatever it is you're supposed to shoot, the safety officer watches you as you take the magazine out of the pistol, pocket it, work the slide to eject whatever round is in there. Then you point the gun downrange and you drop the hammer on the chamber to make sure there's no round in there. And I can tell you more than once, that gun made a bang. And there's nothing in the world that makes a louder bang than an unloaded firearm.
And I mean, the interesting thing was, I know, again, we talked about this earlier, was the thing that disturbed him most, Jensen Ackles, the thing that disturbed him most was when she said, did you dry fire the 6 rounds into the dirt when you got your weapon in the morning? Yes. After lunch, did you do it? And it freaked him out because he could not remember. He had no recollection of whether or not he did this ritual that he does every time he he's handed a gun. And that disturbed him that he couldn't remember that. And I mean, the guy was just spot on. And he was talking about how he was freaked out and his wife was freaked out because Alec Baldwin was supposed to be pointing that gun at him a few minutes later. And he was righteously indignant about the whole situation.
That's what happens.
That's
why it's reckless conduct, because you're creating an unjustified risk of death to someone, because you're not taking those very modest. This is not an 8-hour process to ensure a gun's not loaded. It takes a few moments. And by the way, even if it took 8 hours, you'd still be expected to do it.
I mean, don't point it. Don't touch this part. He's been making movies for 40 years. Yes. He doesn't need to be told it, but he should be told it, and he should listen when he's told about it.
If you're going to be handling inherently dangerous instruments, if it's going to be a real gun, and by the way, that could well change in the movies. If they wanted to spend the money, they could have props that were non-functioning, that looked just like real guns, but were incapable of firing around. The only reason they don't do it is because it would be expensive. It's much cheaper to simply buy a real gun.
And maybe I'm the weird one in the group. I mean, all my friends think I'm insane when I do this, but I compare it to when I get on an airplane, I have the damn safety briefing virtually memorized for each airline that I've ever flown on. I don't need to listen to it, but I shut the fuck up and listen to it. And
you're better than me. I don't listen.
I know. I just do it out of weirdness, and I will reach down and make sure that life vest is under my seat. I just do it.
Yeah,
I liken it to this. You don't have to do it. You don't need to do it. You know better than whoever's telling you about it.
I just figure I'm not getting off that plane alive. If something goes wrong, it's all over.
Fight Club, they got smiling faces during the airplane crashes on the drawings, and But I mean, we're dealing with something that can literally delete you in seconds, and the arrogant and the frivolity with which he handled it and talks about it is astounding to me. I just can't wrap my mind around someone that arrogant. And I don't know if he's just like, if he's putting on some bravado to sort of try to Jedi mind trick people, or if he really is this big of just a slug of a human being.
If you're willing to disregard the risk, you can be nonchalant about it. And most of the time it'll be fine until somebody dies. And then when somebody dies, you're held accountable, or ought to be held accountable for that result.
Well, I mean, that's why we call them accidents. Because they happen not regularly and not planned. They're unplanned for events.
Yeah, we have to be careful. So the word accident for lawyers, it's a term of art, and it means an unfortunate result for which there is in fact no legal liability. It's unforeseeable. No one could have predicted. No one's at fault. Yeah, that's a genuine accident. And say, if I don't know, if Adam Baldwin were struck by lightning and that's why the gun went off, that would be something unforeseeable, not within his control. That would be a genuine accident for which but even then he'd be pointing the gun at a human being. So
unless he went at the second he was hit by lightning.
Yeah, right. Anyway. So, but that's why
that's what it would take.
There's 4 rules of gun safety, right? I mean, there's presume every gun is loaded. Ha ha ha, Alec. Don't point a gun at anything you're not willing to destroy or kill.
Yes.
Right? He did that one too. Keep your damn finger off the trigger until you're ready to discharge the gun. And arguably he did that too, although you don't need to have done that. He's got enough liability even without that. Even if the gun were somehow broken so that playing with the hammer would discharge the gun, there's no death unless he points the muzzle at the woman, right? So that's the creation of the risk. And then of course know your target and what's beyond your target. We know where the muzzle was
director.
Yes.
It would be the director behind your target.
Following just one of them generally keeps
and there's
still
4.
bad.
Right. There's 4 because if you break any one, you're probably okay. I mean, if you have your finger on the trigger and the gun goes off, but it's pointed in a safe direction, okay, nobody died. Not a good thing, but nobody died. So they're redundant with each other in a way to create a multifaceted, multi-layered safety system. But he broke all of them.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
like literally all of them, and you have to work to do that.
or you have to be reckless, which is the basis for the criminal liability.
I guess we're just gonna have to kind of see how this plays out over the next few weeks, see who the lucky 1 to 4 people she plans on charging is.
Yeah,
And,
well, I guess they gave her half the money, right? They gave her $300,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah, with
I mean,
the option to ask for more later.
now she'll be obliged to move forward with something. I believe she's planning to spend a chunk of that money on a special prosecutor. So I mean, she appears to be. She looks to me like she's starting to see this as just a hot potato case. She just doesn't personally want to be involved in, and so she's going to hand it off to somebody else. That's increasingly common in these politicized kinds of cases.
It was like 130,000, I think she wanted for a lawyer, for lawyers' fees, and there's 200 and something for experts, and like 80,000 for office supplies, and like get some other things thrown in. But yeah, there's 150, 160 earmarked for lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like enough for 4 trials. 100.
No.
But
I
don't know. I don't know. Maybe she's just supplementing her office staff. I don't know. Because of course she's paid regardless, right? Her staff is paid regardless. All that infrastructure. I mean, that's one of the reasons we say that prosecutors have effectively infinite resources, because they're all there anyway. You know, it's not like the criminal defense salary only there if you pay them.
The depositions are going to be very, very interesting.
I love depositions. They're one of my favorite things in the world. It's probably my favorite part of being a lawyer is being on depositions. You get people under oath, you get them on camera, and frankly, you get to do kind of a low-key interrogation yourself and see if you can lull people to say the words you need them to say to advance the interest of your client. Especially, by the way, which I don't know, did they do any of this? I guess they did the interviews in the police station. The people were willing to talk. But getting depositions early is really, really important, because if you get it early, you begin to lock people into their positions. Their recollection is theoretically the best it's going to be, and they haven't yet been subject to political pressure or biases or other interests that might lead them to start remembering things differently for purposes of bias. And you have an opportunity to impeach them if they do start changing their story. Impeach them with those early depositions. But depositions are great. Everyone thinks they're a good liar until they're in a deposition with a skilled attorney, and then it all goes into the shitter after that.
Well, see, this is 80,000 for office supplies. WTF? That's actually a really, really conservative estimate for 4 trials.
Yeah, all this stuff gets expensive really fast.
Especially
photocopies, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Transcripts at multiple dollars per page, thousands and thousands of pages of transcripts, and you get a lot of,
go online to like quill.com, guys, and like start looking at office supplies, even if you buy in bulk, and just think about how much that adds up to after a while.
Yeah, a good day for Dunder Mifflin, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it all adds up. Every folder, every pen, you got to pay for it,
and it's all got to be accounted for, because the county auditor is going to be all over it. But
yeah, don't take any of those Post-it note pads home, folks.
Yeah. Don't let your client Amber Heard abuse the Post-it note privilege during trial. It costs you money.
Right. Well, at least she only needs one sheet of paper, right, for the entire trial. She doesn't actually write anything down. her instantly disappearing ink pen.
Oh God, just that can't go away fast enough. But anyway, the grift is real, but it keeps coming back. I think we're coming up on 4 hours on my 2-hour stream here. I always love it when other people come on and it gets into a really good discussion and someone brings a new dynamic to it. Too bad Ian actually had to go to work and do other trials. That would have been fun to have everybody here together.
Yeah. So what was his take? I mean, obviously he's in Canada. I don't know anything about Canadian law at all. But he's in Canada. He has familiarity with guns and safe gun handling and so forth.
His general view is less than 50% chance that Alec Baldwin actually gets charged, even though he should be.
For political reasons or based on legal merit?
For political reasons.
Yeah, because none of us, I mean, you can't really predict the politics. The legal merit you can make an assessment of.
Yeah, which is pretty damn clear.
Yeah.
Well, there's no question really on involuntary manslaughter. I mean, it's the elements are there beyond any reasonable doubt, all day, every day, twice on Sunday. The question is, do they want it?
Yeah.
If they don't want it, then it doesn't matter what the legal merit is.
I don't think they want it, but after reading the way she phrased the letter, I mean, it's like the third sentence in, Alec Baldwin shot and killed this lady.
Yeah.
So we need money.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money if you're not going after Alec Baldwin. If you're just doing 4 prosecutions of 4 normal people. For what? I mean, there's no murder here, right? These aren't murder trials. Would the others be guilty of involuntary manslaughter? I mean, their creation of risk here is, I mean, clearly there's an intervening factor, right? there's Alec Baldwin. So I think it would be a stretch. Might there be other lesser degrees of criminal liability for other things, endangerment and things like that? But, you don't need that kind of money for that kind of trial.
But I mean,
unless you're going after Alec Baldwin and he's got millions of dollars to bring to a legal defense, and then you better gear up.
But yeah, just the way she wrote that letter, it nudged the needle a couple points for me towards, okay, this could happen, but I'm still on the side of it not.
So do you guys have the letter too? Because I didn't see the letter. I just saw the news report on the letter. Did they release the letter itself?
I do. It's a short letter. We can whip that up right now.
And if you can send that to me, I'd appreciate it. I don't have any immediate use for it, but it'll save me having to dig it up.
Just DM me the email address.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot, of course.
Let's see, Baldwin.
I'll send you my email.
Wasn't the Baldwin documents? It was in the. We did.
You already put it in private chat for me.
Oh, I did. All right. Well, let me just do a quick copy and paste here, and then we'll bring it right up. It starts out like it's very, very strongly worded right from the get-go. We need money because Alec Baldwin's killing people is essentially what it says. All righty, bring this up. Emergency funding request for Rust. The 4th line down. Many individuals handled the gun, but before that was during the filming of this movie, Alec Baldwin shot and killed Helena Hutchins and injured Joel Souza while rehearsing a scene. That's kind of right to the point. Alec Baldwin killed somebody, so we need money. And they anticipate prosecuting up to 4 individuals. They want the 635 because they need to go to the legislature for the special appropriations. They have the breakdown here and all the reasons why they need the money. 156 for the investigator, 39 for paralegal, 39 for PIO. So they're going to be doing some processing here. 225 for expert, 79 for office. Total 635.50.
Did you show them that opening paragraph?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What do you think about that, Andrew? Just the way that's worded.
I mean, they're not exactly burying the Alec Baldwin association here.
Well, and Ian sort of felt they were doing that to justify asking for that much money. Oh, we have to go after this big guy, so we need a lot of money, and then they don't prosecute him, and they use that to bury the other people.
I mean, maybe, but we're speculating, right? So we can't mind read. Certainly, that's a possibility. It would be a pretty obnoxious thing to do, to collect the money based on the ruse that you're going after Alec Baldwin when you're really going after these other people who really no one's going to care about. I mean, this is not going to be a media storm if Alec Baldwin's not a criminal defendant in these trials.
But that's pretty harshly worded. I mean, like just straight out of the gate, 3rd sentence. Alec Baldwin shot and killed Helena Hutchins.
Yeah. I mean, well, she could have said, unintentionally, accidentally. I mean, she could have softened the language if she'd wanted to.
Or Helena Hutchins was, died on this date. Yeah. She could have phrased it a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. But they
unfortunately died in a firearm incident. I mean, she could have made a completely passive voice. Which lawyers are good at.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think she really focused on how she worded this. But yes, she could also just be the typical county government official trying to just skim a little more budget money too at the end of the day.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot more money. I mean, I don't think her office is that big, but it could be. I guess I don't know.
Hey, you can have a office retreat to Oahu or something maybe. Right. Team building exercises.
Team building exercises.
Yeah, governments are big on that.
Taos is right around the corner. Taos is nice.
Let's go hum and enjoy the Taos hum while we're prepping. Go on our spiritual journeys to prosecute Alec Baldwin. I mean, I mean, it's just stunning that this is even a thing that we have to discuss. So preventable at every. I mean, it was just redundancy upon redundancy that failed. Let alone the personal responsibility of the guy with the boomstick in his hand that Swiss cheeses the people in front of him.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's a terrible tragedy, right? A woman died, a mother, a wife died for no good reason. Someone else was, suffered a gunshot wound. I mean, he apparently, I guess he's doing fine. I don't know, but that's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if everyone was a responsible adult human being, we wouldn't have much to talk about. And I wouldn't have much of a job. I mean,
yes.
I tell my wife all the time, listen, we're in a growth industry. As long as people keep shooting each other, we'll be able to pay the mortgage. And it doesn't look like American society, at least, is getting safer anytime soon. It looks like things are trending the other way. So
yes, no, I agree. I kind of, I'm not worried about having to switch over to only writing wills anytime soon.
And I mean, that's a bit of a professional hazard. Is we earn money when people kill, maim, injure, hurt, and damage other people. So I mean, lawyers, doctors, and policemen probably have the sickest sense of humor of anybody on planet, because we see all of this all day, every day, and you have to joke about some of this, otherwise it would crush you. And then, I mean, you start with the premise that I don't have a job if everybody is getting along and nobody's doing something stupid or getting hurt. So you hate to wish for it, but you need it to put the dinner on the plate. Because if I had to be a transactional lawyer for the rest of my life,
you don't need to wish for it.
Yeah,
people just do it.
Well, it's coming up on 2 a.m. here, and it's time to go to work tomorrow and do this all again. But last comments, anybody? Go ahead, Sean. You first.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what unfolds. Also, in case anybody's wondering, Daryl Brooks, the Waukesha parade runner-over guy, he is having a hearing at 2 p.m. Eastern time about representing himself and getting rid of his attorneys. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see if he keeps up the sovereign citizen shtick. Oh, yesterday he tried to do the whole, well, the state's not the victim, and the names are on all capital letters, so I don't think this is right. So the judge said, we're gonna try this again tomorrow, and we'll see what happens at 2.
So. What the judge, because not today, Maurice Sovsit. Not today.
But yes, I'll be on right at 2 if anybody wants to come over and watch.
Oh no! And don't forget to go over to Potentially Criminal and like every single video he's ever done, and subscribe as well. Entertaining comments.
Sure. John does great work.
And Andrew Brink of Law of Self-Defense, who has no problem self-grifting. Go for it.
No. I don't know. Can you? Is that screen still shareable by you?
It is.
So this Saturday, folks, we teach
it later.
Yep, twice a year we teach a full day law self-defense course. Everything you need to know to make yourself hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. Learn it all in one day, folks. And we're doing something this Saturday is the course, Saturday, October 1st. We're doing something we've never done before. Is we're going to simul-stream the first hour of the class on YouTube and Rumble. So you'll be able to join us for the first hour without any cost or any commitment, whatever. And if at the end of that hour you want to join for the rest of the class, you'll have the opportunity to do that. That's October 1st, this Saturday starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you do stay for the whole class, it is 6 hours of instruction. But the first hour is just there for the taking, no cost, no commitment. You can join us for that at lawofselfdefense.com/YouTube. And if you would like to save 50% on the class, you just sign up ahead of time. We're offering 50% off if you just sign up now. You can do that at lawofselfdefense.com/advanced for the advanced class.
Awesome. And definitely, if you have not already done so, and I can't imagine anyone has not done so, go over and subscribe to the Law of Self-Defense channel on YouTube. Awesome videos all the time, some very important issues. And you just, you can't beat it.
And
especially
guys,
at that price.
That first hour alone is going to have a lot of good information in it.
Oh, it'll be fun. Yeah, you'll like it. You'll be grateful for that first hour, even if you don't do the rest of the class.
Well, that'll be midnight Saturday night here. I have a party with about 9 Russians lined up. So if I'm still conscious at that point, At that point in
Yeah.
time, I'll definitely pop in
Yeah.
myself.
Sorry, Oleg. I don't want your Russian hookers. I got to go watch self defense.
By that point, it'll probably be we'll see, because we party hard with the Russian friends. And me, hey, I'm Legal Vices. I'm here every day. Come back tomorrow where we watch the legendary F. Lee Bailey crush Mark Furman in a stellar cross-examination in the O.J. Simpson trial. And
all right, guys, thanks for having me on. Good seeing you, Sean.
Good seeing you, Andrew.
Take care, guys. Talk
Yep.
soon.
thank you for coming in, Andrew. We'll talk to you
Sure
soon.
thing.
Bye-bye.
Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed that interaction between Legal Vices, potentially criminal Sean Martin, and myself discussing the Alec Baldwin shooting of Helena Hutchins and the criminal and civil liability that might result. Again, I strongly encourage you to check out their YouTube channels. Go to youtube.com, type in Legal Vices in the search window, and you'll pull up Legal Vices YouTube channel. And if you go to youtube.com/potentially criminal, you'll pull up Sean's channel. Both those guys, very good lawyers. They do great work in the LawTube environment. Well worth following and subscribing, liking, all that kind of stuff. All right, folks, that's all I have for all of you today. I'll just remind all of you again that if you carry a gun so that you're hard to kill, that's why I carry a gun, so I'm hard to kill, so my family is hard to kill, then you also owe it to yourself and your family to make sure you know the law so you're hard to convict. Until next time, I remain attorney Andrew Branca for Law of Self-Defense. Stay safe.